some days there won't be food in the house. Mum will go into the cupboard, find an egg that's left, and somehow whip up an omelette. And I'll be like, oh, this is nice. But not knowing that nothing in the fridge, there's nothing in the cupboards. Mum is just making something out of anything.
You've helped a lot of families.
I then became the youngest food bank CEO across the UK and Europe.
How hard is it to set up a charity in the UK?
We provide food, yes, we provide mentorship, yes, we provide essential items that people need.
What does your mum say about what you do now? When did you decide to make it an official charity? When and how hard was it to do that? Welcome to Emily Abraham Presents the Love Luxury podcast, and today I have with me Ruth Giscombe, who is the CEO and founder of the City Welfare, which is a charity based in London.
That's correct.
Right. Just a brief introduction. So we met about 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And I met you at Charlie Mullin's honorary dinner.
Yes, that's correct.
And you were there with Pastor Toby
Yes.
and the team. And basically you were part of the organisation and everything behind it. And that's how I met you. So you stood up and you gave a brief speech.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, about what you do. And I found it really inspiring. And actually, I came to you afterwards and I said it actually moved me to tears because I was one of those children that you were talking about. And then you opened up and said, actually, I was as well.
Exactly the same,
Yeah. Before we get to the charity, we'll talk just very briefly about your childhood, so where you grew up and what your childhood was like.
So I actually grew up in the borough of Lambeth.
Okay.
And in the borough of Lambeth, I grew up in a place called Brixton. So just to kind of give a background of what Brixton is, it's either you're going to see a lot of crime rates or a lot of unemployment or a lot of young people who, let's say, are pretty much caged in between the four walls of their estate or the four walls of them trying to follow the crowd to get out of a system that is created in Brixton. So I would say Brixton is part of a low social eco environment. And I think growing up for me, I would say life was very average, or it could have even been below average, but that was my average. And I think growing up, I thought I had peace of mind. I thought I literally had everything. Because they're saying in comparison to my friends, they were living in a flat and I was living in a house. Or compared to my friends, they grew up in a family home, but I grew up with my mum. So I was able to get away with a few more things rather than having such a strict hold on what I wanted to do. An average day for me was literally knowing that, okay, when I got home, there'll be heat in my household. When I got home, there'll be food to eat before I went to bed. When I went home, there was a bed for me to sleep in. I think as I grew up, I started seeing that, okay, mum is not eating dinner this evening. So I would ask mum, aren't you hungry? Aren't you going to eat something? And then she's like, no, I ate earlier. You can eat it. And I was like, okay, so, mum doesn't really have an appetite. Maybe she generally doesn't want to eat anything. Or some days there won't be food in the house. So mum will go into the cupboard, find an egg that's left, and somehow whip up an omelette. And I'll be like, oh, this is nice. But not knowing that, okay, there's nothing in the fridge, there's nothing in the cupboards. Mum is just making something out of anything. Then there was times where, okay, it's London, it's very cold, but we can't keep on the heating for too long. So it's just like small things like these things. I started realizing, okay, is there trouble in my household? I never really questioned it. But I think when I started, let's say, doing the work that I do now as part of like helping people, as part of actually going into households, because the City Welfare, yes, we provide food, yes, we provide mentorship, yes, we provide essential items that people need, but it's not a food bank that buys bulk items and says, okay, come down to a food hall or come down to a hired space and collect food. No, I actually go into the houses, I actually sit down and have conversations with individuals, and I'm telling you, you will cry in those moments. And I think just the basic needs made me realize, wow, what I'm seeing in these households also happen within my household. We also have even younger mothers on our database as well.
So before you do tell us more, let's go back to the beginning, because when you were talking to me about your own home life,
Yes.
you mentioned at the beginning that there was always food on the table and it was always warm. But then you got older and you started noticing that actually there were times when the heating wasn't on and that there wasn't any food.
Yeah.
So what happened between that point and that point, those 2 points for you and your family?
I think for me, it was realizing that maybe when I was younger, I probably missed certain things that was happening. So when I was eating, I didn't know that maybe mum had missed the meal just so I could eat. Or when I had gotten home and it was warm, maybe it was because mum scheduled to turn the central heating on in time for when I got home from school. And then by the time I was in bed, I hadn't realised that the heating was now turned off. So I think for me, it was quite shocking because I didn't know if, number one, maybe I had missed it, or number two, mum is actually now struggling. She can't even find herself to tell me. I think she wanted to be so strong for the household that everything that she was facing, I had no idea. We had even reached a point where we had faced eviction. And I was so angry, not at my mum. She wasn't able to tell me to even put me in a position to maybe somehow help. And I think the whole experience was absolutely crazy, because it was one night she basically just sat me down and she was like, Ruth, we have to start packing our items. And I was like, oh, like, where are we moving to? Is there a reason why we need to go? Because I was like, okay, like, I have a community here, I have friends here, my house is literally down the road from my secondary school, why would I want to move? And she basically explained, oh no, we've received a court order and we've been evicted from the house, so we won't be able to stay here. I didn't cry, I didn't get upset. I think in that moment I was just still. And I was like, okay. And then she was like, Ruth, is everything okay? Like, you're not reacting. And I think I just reached a place where I don't know how to react from all the things that are unraveling that I had never paid attention to before.
How old were you then?
So I was in secondary school. So I believe I was around maybe 15.
So it's a lot
15,
for any
16.
15-year-old to have to take on their shoulders and hear from their mum.
Yes.
You know, because at 15 you're going through your own changes and learning about life and who you are and what you want to become, your GCSEs.
Literally.
There's already a lot of pressure on those young shoulders just from being who you are as a person.
Yes.
But then to have the added knowledge that actually your mum's not eating, the heating's only going on for a certain amount of time a day, if it's going on at all, and that actually we have to move, and this is the house I've grown up in, it's all I know, that's massive. And that, for your mum, I understand as a mother why she didn't say anything to you. I understand as a mother why she wouldn't. Because until things get to the point where you actually know that there's no going back or that there's nothing you can do, you'd rather shield your children from that, because they already have enough to deal with. And actually, we bring children into the world because we want to nurture them and take care of them. We don't want them to have to take on the added stresses that we may foresee that we've brought into the situation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I get that why your mum wouldn't have said anything until the last minute. But I also get from your perspective that, you know, you may have wanted to be able to do something to help, but it wasn't your place. But also what you're telling me, what you went through as a child, as a teenager, is what so many other children and teenagers are going through right now at this point in their lives, because of what's going on in our country and the government. And, you know, the fact that the war in the Ukraine has created a massive knock-on effect for our fuel, and the prices have risen so greatly. I am quite an active member of a lot of Facebook groups,
Okay.
and I see people who may be on a Facebook group that's about something completely different, asking people for advice, saying, I've just got a £1,700 gas bill for a month. And to me, that is shocking that anybody can be issued a gas bill, even if you're in your house 24/7, you've got 5 kids and you've got your gas and electric on all day. How
And
can
that's
anybody be
so
issued that
much.
kind of a bill? And what that then does is it causes anxiety for the parent. The parent then is going to struggle to cope with their children or child.
Okay.
And then that child is going to sense that there's something wrong but not know what's wrong. And then it becomes behavioural issues
Yes.
and educational issues. And it has a
Exactly.
massive adverse knock-on effect that someone who is as lucky as myself doesn't anymore have to deal with. But I think that this issue that you have recognised that there's a problem. I mean, everybody's recognising there's a problem, but you're only, how old are you, Ruth?
I'm now 26.
So you're 26 years old. You're a really young woman. And when did you start this charity up?
So I started doing community work when I was aged 22.
Okay.
And I literally started this charity work 2 years ago.
So
So when COVID-19 had broken out, it was literally at the peak of it beginning that I had established it. And now it was like, whoa, there's a bigger responsibility. There's so much more people that is going to request this help and the support.
Yeah. And that to me is shocking that it would take a 24-year-old to recognise that there's a problem in our system and to want to do something about it when there are so many other people who are capable and able. But, you know, everybody has their own situations. But you saw something from what you're saying that you resonated with and knew that you could do something to help, which is amazing for someone of your age to do that, because most 24-year-olds are only thinking either about career or university, or they've just come out of university, or they're travelling, or they're partying, they're living their life. Not many young women of your age are actually saying, actually, there's an issue here and I can do something to help. So that is amazing to me that, you know, at such a tender age that you've done that. But I think what's really amazing is the fact that you've actually continued it, because it's very easy to have an idea. It's very easy to think, I want to help some people and maybe get a pot of funds and find a group of families or a group of people or a community that you can go and help. But once that pot dries up, then what do you do?
Exactly.
And as a charity CEO, which is what you are, you've then got to find the resources. And it's not only that, you're giving your time, you're giving therapy.
Yes.
You're taking a lot of emotional baggage on your shoulders, again, at a very tender age. And that can take its toll. So my first question is, how did you, one, decide that you were going to, let's do the first one. How did you decide you were going to set up a charity? How did the charity come about, City Welfare? How did it come about?
From the age of 22, I became actually a community leader within the borough of Lambeth and also in the borough of Croydon. And I literally just wanted to see change. So I actually became, I would say, an admin assistant within the actual operation. And what I would do is, in an organisation, is I would bid write, I'll fill out like different application forms so that more children, teenagers had the opportunity to have activities that they could do after school, or actually have like training sessions where they're not going home, finding nothing and having to find a group of people that is not going to take them down the right road. That is when I began having like mentees. So that's basically just younger people who you basically assist and support, and they come to you in order to almost have like a pathway of what they should do. And there was a young lady, so it was actually December 2019, I'll never forget it. I think I was age 23, so maybe I was 23 actually, age 23. And she had said, me and my mum, we don't have anything to eat this Christmas. And I was like, okay, like what's happened? And she was like, I don't know, but we're not with the family this year, and literally we have nothing in the household. Can you help me? Straight away I was like, okay, yes, I'm going to make sure you have something, you have food, you have something in your household for Christmas Day. But in my head I was like, okay, I'm going to feed them during Christmas, but what then happens next? So I went back to my mentor. I believe you've met her, Mariam Mola. And she said, okay, you're going to help this young lady, but I also want you to find 10 more mothers who are going through the very same situation. Find 10 mothers who are also struggling this Christmas. And in my head, I was like, oh my God.
How am I going to do that? Knock on people's doors. Hello, do you have food today?
Literally. And funny enough, the world of social media.
Yes.
So I literally posted on social media and I sent around like a WhatsApp broadcast. And I was like, is there anybody who needs support this Christmas?
Yeah.
And the responses actually came in. And this was prior to COVID-19. And literally, in quotes, that was my first Christmas charitable campaign.
Okay.
I had no idea that it would then grow to become more than that. So I just knew that, okay, I was starting with those 10 mothers who needed support that Christmas. And I just literally began speaking to different organizations and foundations to see, okay, who would like to be a part of this project that I've started to support mothers who are going through a difficulty and maybe under the poverty line and can't feed their household. Like, even I think I read a Go Henry report which said that 81% of children living in the UK, they worry about financial difficulties within their household. 81%.
And that's children.
And I was like, God, this is crazy. So I literally just went calling, emailing, looking to see who I can find. So there were some organizations, as well as Pastor Toby, who said, okay, we want to provide support for what you're doing. And literally monthly, we were delivering food to these households.
So you've helped a lot of families. And at this point, you said that it was a lot to take on. It was a lot to organise.
Yes.
Every aspect, logistically, financially, organisationally. So there was a lot of things that you had to consider to make it work. But when did you decide to make it an official charity? When and how hard was it to do that?
I officially made it a charity in April 2020.
Okay.
And then going into 2020 was the peak of the pandemic. And literally just starting with a group of friends, they basically said, Ruth, we need to register this. And we need to literally start expanding our reach. And in my heart, I was like, yes, we do. We need to go across the UK. I was like, yes, we're going to touch the world. But in my head, I was also like, oh my God, this is really happening. I'm starting a food bank. Like, I'm actually becoming a CEO. And I think from then, when I had registered it, I then became the youngest food bank CEO across the UK and Europe.
Which is amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing achievement. And your mum must be so proud of you.
When I first started, the households that I would go into many a time, you wouldn't really find the parents there or the mother there. It would just be, my son will be in, or that's fine, my daughter will answer the door for you. And you'll find that because mothers have so much pressure to be at work, they're not with their children. They have so much pressure of being at work that they don't even have time to make them a meal whilst they're at home by themselves. I remember going to a household at 4:00 in the afternoon, and there's 3 young boys sitting in darkness. You couldn't even see the floor because there was so much in the household. Everything was just scattered across different rooms. So not only did they not have food in the household, there was no electricity. There was, sorry to say, but there was no inspiration in the household. And these are 3 young boys who make up our next generation, but they have nothing. You'll see young young boy is probably just started secondary school, and he's just angry, just so angry.
Understandably so.
Yeah.
Because children need an outlet. They need to be children. They need to enjoy their lives. And when mum's out working 24/7 just to pay the rent,
Yes.
so that she can provide a roof over their heads, the anger is more not directed at the government. It's at mum. It's why is she not here? Why am I alone? And the eldest, why do I have to take care of my little brothers or my younger siblings? Or because you don't have the mental capability in your younger years to understand that actually this is completely out of my mum's control and she's actually only doing her best.
Yes.
And so for someone like you to come in and to provide that relief, even if it's just food, if that was the only thing you did, even if it's just food, just providing food so that they can get home from school and not feel that horrible feeling in their stomach and go to bed early because they're trying to avoid the feelings of hunger, waiting to have lunch at school.
Basically.
You know, this is a massive issue as to why people in our first world country resort to crime.
Yes.
It's a massive reason, because if you see your parents struggling and you're thinking, well, they worked hard, they went out every day. If I go out every day, I'm going to struggle too. It's a lot easier to jump on the roads and do some criminal activity and get some cash in your pocket that nobody knows about. And I think that mentality is something that we have to learn to help people to overcome.
Yes.
And then by you coming in, you're doing that. You're showing them that actually there are people out there that care about you.
Exactly.
Because that's the most important thing for a child to feel.
Yeah.
I'm cared for and I'm loved.
Yeah.
And somebody who doesn't know me, like Ruth, is coming in and is giving me something that I'm not even being able to get from my parents because they can't cope.
Yes.
And that's such a massive thing it's such a fundamental thing that everybody should feel. And it's something that they're not receiving.
Yes.
And I think I don't know the answer. And I don't think anybody knows what the complete answer is. But I think the little steps that you're doing on a huge scale now, because you've helped over 500 families.
So on our next Christmas campaign, we actually, from starting with just 10 from that first Christmas, we then went on and had a Christmas campaign where we covered over 500 households. So imagine, let's say, 5 individuals within 500 households. That's going over thousands. And from starting it till date, we've now even delivered over 136,000 meals till date now.
That it's crazy.
Yes.
It's a lot of help. But how do you juggle what you're doing for the communities that you're helping and actually being Ruth and making your own money and living your own life? How are you finding the juggling of that?
Everything that I'm currently doing, it ties in with one another. So as I made mention earlier, I actually have mentorship. So whenever I get to a place where I don't have an understanding or I genuinely need help, SOS, then I have a go-to. I have someone who has already started a path that I'm currently on, who can say, okay, Ruth, you can do it like A, B, and C, and you will find a way to have enough capacity to do exactly all of these things that is not only helping yourself but helping so many other people. And I think how I've been able to manage it as well is having the people there and present who have the same desire as I do to help people. I then went on to start a Every Child Deserves a Meal campaign, and there were so many more donors that just wanted to help. There were so many more volunteers that wanted to be a part of the movement. I remember just receiving so many DMs. So I started receiving messages from individuals in France, individuals in Ireland, individuals even in Ghana. And they basically said, I want to come to London just to help you. I'm so inspired that I'm seeing a girl just like myself at your age making a difference. Like, how is it possible? As you're literally asking. And I think it's just understanding that there is a why to what I'm doing.
Basically, we're the first to go to uni, complete your uni.
Yes.
First to set up a charity.
Yes.
First to continue running the charity.
Yes.
And now it's gone on to a almost global scale.
Basically,
Yeah.
yes.
It's definitely international at the moment.
Yes.
Which is fantastic.
Thank you.
What does your mum say about what you do now?
Right now, she's just overwhelmed. Every single time we have a conversation, she's like, I think at the end of every phone call, she's like, Ruth, I am so proud of you. I am so, so proud of you. It can even be at random moments where she'll just stop. And like she's literally made a WhatsApp broadcast group, and every single time there's a new post about the city welfare, or whenever there's a campaign that we're leading, like let's say like our last campaign of no child without food, literally she'll send it around to all of her friends saying, look at what my daughter's doing. Even like a Facebook fan page, literally my mum is like the biggest supporter.
I'm a real big believer in the universe paying back, and whether it's the universe, whether it's God, whether it's people hearing whispers, something always ends up happening, and you end up getting tenfold so that you can give more.
Exactly.
And that's a really amazing thing about giving. And not only that, there's my daughter, you may have seen, she does social media, and we started her going out to the homeless on the streets of London. And at the beginning, she was really apprehensive about it. I spoke to someone about this today, a very successful businessman, because he asked me, and I said she was really, really apprehensive because it's a scary thought to go out and speak to men that are maybe drunk or on drugs that are living on the streets.
Yeah.
So she was really apprehensive. She was like, Mummy, I don't think I can do it. But I pushed her and I said, look, I know you can do this.
Yeah.
Just go and talk to one of them. So after the first one, then it becomes easier.
Yeah.
And when we finished and we got in the cab to come back here, because we had loads of empty bags, and she said, oh, Mummy, can I keep doing this? Because I felt all warm and fuzzy inside.
So
and
beautiful.
That really is what giving, you may be helping someone else, but actually it can be quite a selfish thing, because by you helping someone else, you're actually helping yourself.
Yes.
Because you're giving yourself a sense of self-worth as well. And you feel good about yourself from helping somebody else. And it's a very mentally positive thing to do. Mentally and emotionally positive thing to do is to help other people.
Yes.
Would you agree?
100%. Even like at the beginning stages, I would literally just do like the operations behind closed doors. I will put in place, okay, the administration that day, okay, how many meals will go out. These are where the drivers are going to go to. But I had never gone into a house yet. And I think just one of our drop-offs, I decided, okay, I'm available. I'm going to go and join one of our drop-offs. And I think that just changed everything. I was like, so this is what I've been missing. It totally changes from you being on, let's say, the admin side of making sure the operation works. But when you actually go into the houses, literally that warm, fuzzy feeling that your daughter felt, it comes and you're like, whoa, I feel like I can do anything right now. It's a feeling that is so easy but so hard to explain. And I said, okay, I must be at every single drop-off. I have to meet every single family. I'm not changing. There's no area that's like, yes, we're great, don't come and help us. I think the most shock I'd ever received was going into like central London, so like the WC postcodes. I think that was the biggest shock I had ever received, because I was like, oh, I thought this is where the most
where the money is.
The money is.
You're helping on a massive scale, but one person can't solve a problem just by themselves. Like even
Yes.
you said, you had to get help. You have to get financial help. You couldn't work 24/7 and solve this problem yourself.
No.
I can't work 24/7 and solve the problem myself. You have to go out to a broader group of people.
Yes.
You have to get them to go to a broader group of people. And it has to be waves of this help and support. And the reason I asked you to come on today, Ruth, was because I was one of those kids. I was also one of those mums. So I've seen it from both aspects.
Wow.
And when you spoke at the dinner, I was in a restaurant, a very exclusive restaurant. We were in a private dining room.
Yes.
I was sat with business people, celebrity business people, people that had money.
Yes, I think the value of the room was at least 500 million.
Yeah, it was
honestly.
ridiculous. And the cost of that meal was eye-watering.
Yes.
And when you spoke, because I am who I am and where I came from, when you spoke, I remembered those struggles. And it's not something I've ever forgotten because I'm very true to my roots and where I've come from. But you reminded me about something that I'd forgotten in that moment. And in that moment that I was sat there eating this amazing food, talking to these amazing people and networking and, making new friends, for a split second I forgot. And when you spoke up and when you stood up and you spoke, you reminded me. And I sat there and I looked at the table and I looked at the people around me and I was overcome with guilt. I know that there are so many people out there that need this help.
Yes.
It is a pandemic. It's not just a small issue. The real pandemic is what the pandemic caused. And the fact that we've got young women and young men like yourself who want to help on a broader scale is not only inspiring, but it gives me hope that there are people in the younger generation who can change things and make things better again. We don't get political, but I think when I see young people like yourself, and I'm going to say a young person like yourself because I'm an old lady compared to you. I'm literally old enough to be your mum. So when
you look good.
Thank you. But when I see young people like yourself, it makes me realise that, like I said, there's hope for us as a community and as a country and as a world, because you're not the only one who's doing something like this. And there's so many people out there that want to be involved in philanthropy and that have that desire to help other people. And Adam and I do it in a different way. Our heart is in water, which sounds silly because what do you mean your heart's in water? Well, I believe that everybody in the world should have clean running water.
Yes.
And that's a fundamental right that when you're born on this earth, everybody should have the right to clean running water. And unfortunately, it's a luxury in many countries and in many places. So how Adam and I donate a lot of our charity, our zakat, because we give an amount of our income and earnings to charity, goes to making water wells. And not just water wells, because as Muslims you have to clean before you pray.
Okay.
So we build wudu khanas, which means it's for a community. So the water wells we build would be for like 1 or 2 families, so that they've got their own fresh running water.
Okay.
And then the wudu khana is for the whole community, and it's built outside a mosque. And that means that the people from that community, far and wide or close, can go there. They can clean themselves before, and then they can go and pray.
So
and it can be thank you, and it can be a prayer that's accepted by Allah. So for us, that's something that we strongly believe in.
Yes.
And for you, it's food.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think if anybody is watching this and they have ever been in a situation like myself and Ruth were in our younger years, and you feel that you are able to help financially, or that you're able to help by donating your time in any way, I don't know, Ruth is going to give us now her socials.
Okay. So if you do need to find us on our socials, we are currently on Instagram. So our Instagram is The City Welfare. We are very much active on our platform. So if you desire to complete the form from our Instagram page, or if you need to send us a direct message about someone that you're aware that may be going through that situation, or yourself, you can message us directly on Instagram. You can also find us on our website, which is www.citywelfare.org. If you need to, let's say, send me a direct email, then you can send it to ruth@citywelfare.org. If you do desire to make a donation towards the ongoing work that we have been doing, then you can also find a way of doing that directly from our website. Or if you need more support with finding different ways to, let's say, sponsor a family, or do, let's say, one-off donations towards a campaign that we're doing, then again, you can have assistance through sending an email, or again, finding us on our platform and sending us that query directly.
But I think what I've taken from this conversation is that when we're talking about these things, we need to make it very clear that everybody is affected.
Yes.
And you should ask anybody, are you okay?
Yes.
Have you eaten?
Yes.
And do you need any help?
Exactly.
Because just by asking that question, actually, you might offend somebody, but I'd rather offend somebody than have somebody walk past me or somebody I know go without a meal. That's really important for all of us as a collective to sit down and say, if you want to do something about this, actually ask the question. Because you can tell if someone's being honest with you. I ate today. Clearly you didn't eat today. Let me go and get you some food. Yeah. Or let me put you in touch with someone who's going to be able to help you in the long run, which is you. So I think I really appreciate you coming and giving me your time today. Today is International Women's Day, and you've come on today, so you've given me your time, and I know today was a busy day for you.
Yes.
But thank you, and I do appreciate it. And what we may do is do a follow-up on this.
Okay, that'd be brilliant.
And see how we get on in maybe 6 months or a year, and you can give everybody an update on where you are then.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah?
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, and thank you, Ruth, for coming on. And guys, don't forget that the City Welfare will always be accepting help, and if you need to ask for help, don't forget to ask, because there's no shame in asking.
Yes.
It's a really important message.
Yes.
So thanks again to Ruth for coming from the City Welfare and for sitting down and spending her time with me today. If you've got any comments or questions and you don't want to contact Ruth directly, you can comment it down below.